Our second speaker is Alicia Cook, and Alicia is a supervisor of the IT Business Analysis Center of Excellence at Portland General Electric, and she is also the president of the local chapter of the IIBA in Portland. Welcome, Alicia.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me. You will notice we initially had two names on this. Unfortunately, my counterpart was not able to be here today. So our goal had been to have someone from a BA background and someone from a QA background present this together. I will do my best to represent the QA side of the world, and all of you QA folks can keep me honest if I go off the rails, okay? You can read this quote. If there is a wall between your BA and QA organizations, it's time to unite them in the pursuit of improved software quality. That's what we're going to talk about today. Chitra and I were interested in this topic because of some conversations we've been having recently about the growing complexity of our environments and the projects that we're working on. So that's what we're going to really dig into here, but I'll start with the why would you want to emphasize partnership between BA and QA, tight timelines and budgets, business stakeholders want more input into the way that we're doing things, and then again, the complexity and risks of the projects we're doing these days are increasing. One of the ways that you can try to ensure successful delivery in these environments is by partnering your QA and BA for successful delivery of your complex IT projects. So I want to start by talking about what complexity is. We're not talking about complicated projects because we've all done complicated work, probably our whole careers. We're talking about the complex things. This is characterized by a very complicated or involved arrangement of parts, units, or systems. So in my world, that means we have very complex systems that are integrated to very complex systems and a bunch of other little systems. And we have individual users and teams, departments, companies, all relying on these same things for different outputs. We have new projects coming in saying, I'm going to take a couple of these and consume them and replace it. Oh no, I'm not going to touch that. I am going to touch this. It all gets very complex very easily the more fingers you have in the pie and the more pieces you have. So we're basically talking about layering something that's already complicated with something that's more complicated and more complicated until you have something that's very complex and difficult. So the vicious cycle of complexity. We start out, we have a new, let's call it a project, that is more complex than anything that we've tried to do before. Not always, but on occasion, we don't execute that flawlessly. That leads to a loss of some process controls because we have people who are going to make it work. They need to do their jobs. They're going to work around our processes or work around our system, which means we're not getting the business value that we intended to get in the first place. So we throw more process and more people and more money at it to try to fix it. And now we've just added a whole bunch more complexity to it. And we try to continue that execution and it doesn't go so well. So we just keep building and making it harder for ourselves. So what can a BA do to help? It really comes down to the core of understanding the business value that needs to be delivered. It sounds like such a simple thing, but it's extremely broad. And then those core tasks that we look to our BAs to do. Analyzing problems and opportunities, feasibility, benefits, recommending viable solutions to these things. Discovering, defining, documenting clear requirements with context. And that is one of the most important parts to what the BA can do to help in complex situations, is the context. If you are I'll use QA or any other role on a project and you're just handed, let's take Gina's presentation. Here's a BDD. Sure, okay, I can go build that. But without the context of why I'm doing that or what the business value that's needed is, it's very easy to head in the wrong direction. And so that one of the things we have to rely on the BAs for is that context. So QA, how can QA help? QA also needs to understand the business needs and how we're planning on addressing them with these projects. I will admit it's been a few years since I've been a actually on a project BA. I've been in management roles for a while now, but I do remember 10, 15 years ago being on projects where BA, developers, project stakeholders were all involved, all understanding, and then at the very tail end we'd say, okay, now QA, you go test things. And they had no idea what we were testing or why we were testing it or what we were trying to accomplish other than a quick statement that may have been handed off. The more complex these things get, the less that is going to deliver success for us. So prioritize testing based on business value. What's the most important part of this project? What's the value we're trying to deliver to this business? That's where we want to focus the most energy. Thoroughly test to ensure we're delivering the value to the business. Again, everything should be focused on the value that we're delivering. And ensure that change or new services are fit for purpose and fit for use. This really is, we're attempting for some ITIL alignment here. That's where this one comes into play, and I want to be sure we didn't leave it off in case any of my peers were here and were going to hold it against me. Okay, so how can you accomplish this? A couple years ago, I want to say 2 or so, Forrester Research put out a report that talked about the benefits you can gain by really aligning your QA and BA organizations. These were the steps that they recommended. So number 1 was educating BA and QA on end-to-end software delivery processes. You want your QA and your BA to understand the basics of the methodology you're using, as well as basics of project management. Even if you're not the one doing it, you need to understand how this is working. Pairing your BA and QA with designers and developers so that they actually understand that middle part too. We tend to think of BAs up front, developers in the middle, QA at the end. It's not how we want it. We want it spread across the whole thing. And exposing both BA and QA to maintenance and support processes so they understand what that looks like to those people you're handing it off to for day 2, so that you actually build maintainable and supportable systems. Step 2, embed QA early in the life cycle and keep your BAs on through the end. Give QA leads, or I would just say QA, a role during the requirements definition phase, depending on what kind of methodology you're following. Keep both actively involved during the development phase and leverage your BAs all the way through testing. And then 3, consider bringing them physically together, co-locating QA and BA. Some of the ways you could address this is consider combined leadership, creating a collaborative community of practice between the two, and encouraging the social aspects of team bonding. So where I work, the places that I've seen this actually happen and value be found in it is on our agile teams. So Gina just presented, we work at the same company, and I did not know she was talking about Team Awesome, but this is also Team Awesome. So I went to them and said, hey guys, you guys are really successful, and I see your QA and your BA working together a lot and talking a lot. Tell me what you think about it. Is it valuable? And the 2 responses I got were from the BA side saying, yeah, QA is constantly questioning my work, and that's actually a good thing because it means I'm delivering a better product in the end. They, in story times and our AC reviews, they're constantly questioning my deliverables, and it makes me better at my job. And then basically the same in response. QA saying, yeah, the BA is questioning my work in the test review sessions and making sure that I'm testing the right things to ensure that we're delivering the right value to the customer. So again, Team Awesome. They've found a lot of value in the partnership. So QA and BA have a lot of common values. I'm not going to go through the list here, but this is some subset of them. So if we focus on what are the common values that both sides hold important, we can say, what can you do for me? So what can a BA do, what can QA do for a BA? Feedback on requirements, critical thinking and challenging conversations, creative thinking, reliability, clear communication. So this was Chitra, again, I was supposed to have a partner here today. Chitra and I sitting down and talking about as a BA, as a QA, what is it you need from me to be more successful? How can I help you be better at your job? And as we went through this for the BA and for the QA, we came up with the exact same set of things for the other side. But instead of feedback on the requirements, it's feedback on the test plans, the test cases, all of that. The only thing that we came up for the two of us that was most important, most critical to us, that was different on this side was, back to what I said earlier, that context around the requirements. The QA isn't always in the room with those stakeholder interviews, with the requirements gathering sessions. And so to be able to bring that context to them is extremely valuable so that they do know whether they're prioritizing their test cases to focus on the right value to make sure we're delivering what the business really needs to be successful. So some of the advantages you could gain by doing this. Your QA team can have better clarity on the requirements. You can identify your requirements gaps early. Changes to requirements can be communicated and implemented effectively, and you're ensuring that you're testing the right things. And then the last one is really the whole point of this topic, which is ultimately your biggest advantage is that we're going to deliver successfully the value that we promised our clients when we started on this project. So, because my partner's not here and I skipped a bunch of stuff she was going to say, I have a fairly short presentation today. Does anybody have questions or comments? Yeah?
So, you mentioned value.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing in quality. I work in quality.
Sure.
It seems to be a bit of a mystery, though, with BAs, I think. At least some BAs tend to talk about what they're going to create or what they need to create, but they don't really understand the value of quality or the quality value that they're actually trying to do. So, from your perspective, how can I, as a QA person, how can I go to my BAs and say, this isn't good quality? Where's the value in it? Now, is the value just a physical thing, or is it a more philosophical concept? How do you actually quantify that in your mind as you hand things off?
To me, the value that is the number one most important value is the value to the client or the customer. So if you're getting a requirements document or whatever you're using that isn't up to par for quality, that means we're not going to be delivering the value that the client needs. We're not going to get the business what they need to. So in our case, we're internal IT, right, for PGE. So I'm not going to get my business stakeholders what they need to effectively run their business. So every conversation that I have with BAs, so my role right now is supervisor of the BA Center of Excellence. And so I do feedback and coaching with all the BAs across IT. And the number one topic that we talk about is staying focused on the value to the clients. It's the most important thing. That's the reason we're all here. So in my opinion, you might be talking about a couple different kinds of value there, and you might need to level set on what type of value you're talking about.
Do you find that is different between you define value differently than QA when you talk about the same subject? Because you guys see it from two different angles.
Sometimes, not always. So my experience, as I said, most recently is at the management level, right? So I do have a lot of conversations with the supervisor over our QA department, and we talk about staying focused on the value. He and I are aligned on what that means. I do hear conversations that other people are having where it's not the same, and that's where the coaching that I provide to the BAs comes in to just explain, hey, here's a way you could attack this to make sure you guys are talking about the same thing. Not to say that our BAs are 100% always on top of that business value either, but that's where the coaching and the reminders come in. Mm-hmm.
I come at this a little differently. First of all, my background is a technical background, but I have been hired as a BA, but it's measured in weeks at this point.
Mm-hmm.
How they want me to operate is to gather the requirements, write them up, blah, blah, blah. The DDD sounds great.
Sure.
But what also they want me to do is at the other side of it, they will have some QA, but it's what I call guerrilla testing. They're going to go through and beat on a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm also now going to actually be the QA before we give it to the internal user.
For UAT, yeah.
So there can't be anything closer to the fact that I am both sides of this.
You're partnered.
Yeah. Obviously, I haven't done this yet, so I don't know. What do you think? Is that going to be possible? Is that going to be crazy or good? Or?
Of course it's possible. We have done it. There are a lot of best practices that tell you it's not ideal to have the same person testing what you wrote the requirements around, because it's easy to just get into that mindset of, oh, well, I know this is supposed to do this. Oh, look, it does it. and you're not thinking about all the other exceptions and ways that you could address it. However, if you go into it with the right mindset and make sure that you are addressing all those other cases, ideally maybe some peer review, some feedback from outside eyes as well would be helpful. But we have definitely done that where I'm at too, where the BA has been the BA, the PM, the tester, all of it.
Well, the fact that I come in with the technical development background, I
Mm-hmm.
am wicked at finding ways of breaking things.
I bet you are.
Because I know how developers work.
Right.
In a year, I'll report back on how it worked.
Perfect. I'll love to hear it. Anybody else? Sure.
So you talked about the development cycle, part of the PLC. What do you see the role of both the quality and the business analysts in that product life cycle after the solution's been?
There is a very wide variety of how that can work. Ideal world would be you would have the BA who worked on a project, who identified all those requirements, knew what that business value need was from day one, be the person who's also going to be supporting it down the road because they've got all that background. And every time you're transitioning to someone, not only do you run the risk of having gaps in knowledge because they weren't there for all the decisions and conversations, but if you're a lean believer, it's waste. Every time you're handing off to somebody, it's wasted time, right? And it would be the same thing for QA. And so the way we're set up in our area is we have primarily agile teams. We have project teams, and when they're done, then they hand it off to one of the support teams, who are also agile, just a different form. And it does cause problems because you're handing it off to someone who doesn't know what you're dealing with. We try to work around that, but there's always going to be gaps.
Do they get together and determine, so we missed the requirement of value? Did we miss the requirement of value because the IT, the BA side of it, or the quality side of it, or both? And how was that handled in that?
So if we have a defect that's found, it is categorized by the QA that found it, what they think it is. We have a set of categories. It's code, configuration requirements, and there's one more that I can't recall. So they pick the one that they believe it is, and they send it back to that team to duke it out, basically, and that team has to determine, okay, did we miss this because it was maybe a missed requirement or an inaccurate requirement, or because someone didn't understand the requirement, although it was accurate, or somebody just made a mistake. So it's really up to the team that did the work to determine why it happened. And then put a report in place for how we're going to fix it and prevent it from happening again, kind of a thing.
You didn't mention quality in that.
They're part of the team, sorry. So it goes back to that team, and that includes the QA and the development and the BA and product owner and Scrum Master, all on that team. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah. In this case, that's what we were talking about, yes. Thank you for reminding me. Sorry, I was supposed to repeat all the questions and I forgot until now. Her question was, when talking about QA in here, am I talking about a quality analyst? And yes, that is what I'm talking about here, as opposed to quality assurance. Is that what you're asking? Or QA lead, yeah. You could have partnership at a lot of different levels, but specifically what we're talking about here is the quality analyst and the business analyst partnering together. Yeah?
Make the distinction for me, please.
Between quality analyst and quality assurance? Oh, Lord, I can't do that. That's what the quality people are here to do. I have a vague understanding. At least what some people have told me in the past, is that quality assurance engineers, maybe? I don't know. Quality assurance something is really about the processes and the higher level, as opposed to the quality analyst who's writing the test cases, testing, creating the automation, that kind of stuff. Anybody else know better? Yeah?
Pretty close.
Okay.
We look at the QA analysis, sometimes it's like a junior QA engineer.
Okay. So he's saying that I was pretty close, and that they look at their quality analyst as sort of a junior QA engineer, right? Quality assurance engineer. Yeah. Yes?
What are the issues
There's so many. I'll tell you repeat the question. Thank you for reminding me. What are the issues that cause division between QA and BA? I'll tell you about my personal experiences because I'm sure there are a plethora of other reasons. I have had interpersonal issues where they just don't want to work with each other because they don't like each other. I have had people who are very, very rigid in their definition of their role. My job is to define requirements. I don't have to talk to QA, I don't have to talk to anybody else. I define a requirement and I hand it to a developer. And on the other side, a QA. My job is to write and execute a test case. I'm not interacting with anybody else. Not common, but it happens. And I think the most common from my experience is just you're busy. You get sucked into your daily work, and finding the time to actually partner and sit down and talk through these things together can be challenging.
One of the things that you mentioned before,
Mm-hmm.
I've had jobs where I've had to be both a QA and a BA.
Sure.
And in some cases, a QA was the dominant role, in some cases, the BA was.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was asked about it, how can you do both jobs? Aren't they supposed to be competitors? And my response is no. As a part of a team, you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be coming up with the quality of product for the customer.
Right.
Okay. But I think that mindset is out there that we are competitors, that we're supposed to, that the QA person is supposed to find bugs,
Mm-hmm.
not to develop a quality product.
Right. And if you're going into it sort of from an adversarial position, we're competitors with each other, and I'm going to find all the missed requirements that you had, you can see where that division gets easily created. Ideally, before you even get to the testing point where you're finding my missed requirements, we've already been talking. You've been challenging me and telling me when I've done something that doesn't make sense to you, and I've been doing the same to you, so that when we get to that point, it runs smooth, ideally. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Also, because I am the IIBA president currently, if you would like to talk about that organization and have any interest in it, please let me know. Thank you.